Negativity is so difficult to cope with, but here's what I've learned. I've had this idea as a podcast episode for a really long time now, honestly, but I didn't really want to actually record it until I was feeling like I was in a place of my life where I'm not really surrounded by very much negativity. I haven't been feeling very negative, and just a place where I feel like I have a clear mind to talk about this and kind of like a clean slate. And I haven't felt like I've been there for years. And then I think around this year, maybe around the beginning of 2024, I finally got to that place that I had been looking for. And it was a long journey, a lot of counseling, a lot of learning the type of people that I want to be surrounded by, a lot of learning the way I want to be, my thought process, how I want to, teach my brain the way I want to live. But I finally feel like I'm there. So we're going to talk about it. I don't know. I feel like, honestly, my whole life I'd always been a little bit surrounded by negativity. Like, we always are. And by saying that I'm not surrounded by negativity, I don't mean that I'm never, right? There's always going to be negative people in life. There's always going to be negative thoughts that come to you. And that is okay. It happens. It's life. And that's expected. And so what I mean by saying that I feel like I'm not really in a negative spot anymore is that in the majority of ways in my life, in the majority of the moments in my life, when I'm dealt with a difficult situation, my first thought isn't usually very negative. My first thought is maybe accepting it a little bit more with peace, I want to say. And that's been what I've been trying to find for a while now. So I think it was probably around high school. I mean, I was in high school in a small town. It was an amazing school. I love it. And of course, it's high school. There was drama, there was negativity. Like, I feel like that's just kind of the definition of what people think of when they think of high school. And I luckily had a really good high school experience, but I was surrounded by a little bit of negativity there. And my senior year, it got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore. It got really difficult for me, and it ended up hurting me a lot. And when I say that I was surrounded by negativity, I want to be clear. I was surrounded by negativity, but I also was the negativity. And it wasn't until my senior year. I mean, I don't think that I was like crazy negative or anything, but I personally felt like, okay, this is not okay. Like I was like, my first thoughts, even if I wouldn't act on them, were always just, judgy and this and that. Like that senior year, when things started to get too much to me, that's when I was like, okay, no, like I need a clean slate. I can't do this anymore. And so after I graduated, I was like, great, I'll be away. Like I'll be in a new area. I'm just like, all the negativity is going to go away, right? And a lot of it did, but a lot of it didn't as well. In terms of my interactions with other people, it did go away because, I really chose to do it, and I had to burn a bunch of bridges in order to get to a place where I felt that I was not surrounded as much by the negativity, and instead I had to focus on really my own negativity, because I think that negativity is kind of this like, it feeds from other people type of thing. And I could tell that I was really surrounded by a lot of things a lot of people that just weren't right for me, or things that just weren't right for me anymore. And they caused a lot of my negativity. And also, your own inner self too. When you're not doing well, when you're struggling, you're going to maybe be a little bit more negative, right? All of these different things. And so I kind of looked at my life and I was like, what is it that has been really difficult for me and that is not, that's not helping me anymore? And it sounds almost like that's not the way that I want to say it. But there were things in my life that were hurting me a lot, and I needed to let go of them, and I did. And so when I graduated, I was like, great, I was able to let go of a lot of these things that were hurting me. And I did. And I got to college and ended up dealing with a lot of medical issues. And they were a response from when I had PANDAS disorder. And a lot of learned things where I realized I have to work with my counselors and I have to really work on deep stuff to get all of these thoughts and just understand the way that I think and all of these different things. And again, I also want to be clear here. I wasn't like, I don't feel like I was a crazy negative person or anything. But it was enough that it was harming me. And I felt like I needed to get help with that. And I don't think that it has to take years to get rid of negativity in your life. I had medical issues that I had to work through counseling, and they definitely contributed to the negativity because I was in so much pain. So I want to be clear on that. It does not need to take you a million years to get rid of the negativity in your life. If you want it to, if you want to take it slow, that is okay. But it doesn't have to. Everyone's journey is different. Mine ended up being a lot longer than I would have liked, but I am really happy with where I am now, and all the stuff I had to go through, I really learned a lot from. So I went through all of that counseling and those medical issues and doctor's appointments, and I was really struggling, and I took a medical leave because of it. And when I came back, I was finally like, okay, here we are, we're starting new, I'm ready. And I struggled, but I made it through the semester. But I was also surrounded by more things that I didn't realize were really contributing to my negativity. And one of those things was I was having more medical issues that were underlying, and I didn't realize it until I finally got on medication for it, and all of a sudden it disappeared, which was great. And the other thing was, the way I was surrounded by, or the way I was taking care of myself, or I wasn't getting the amount of sleep that I needed. I was dealing with some, I don't want to say manipulation, but as I continue to work through it in counseling, I'm starting to realize that I think it was. And just some stuff that I really just didn't understand, and I really just was struggling with. And it took me a while to even realize that I needed to let that go, and that I also needed to ask for help, and that I also needed to, give myself and my body the help that it needed. And once I was able to do all of that, I was shocked by how quickly I felt like myself again. And so when I'm talking about negativity here, it's a process. It's a really big process. And it is from the way you're surrounded, and it's also from you yourself. And understanding that and taking that is, it's courageous. It takes a lot of work to realize if you were being negative. And the way that I have dealt with it in the past, and the way that I think after going through this entire process, I'm finally realizing is you can't be surrounded by negative people and expect to not feel negative. Even if by negative, it just means you're not feeling the greatest. And you also can't expect to be surrounded by great people, but be negative yourself and feel okay. And I do believe that it is something where you have to realize what around you is contributing to the way that you are feeling, and also what internally is contributing to the way you are feeling. So in my life, what around me was contributing to the way I was feeling, there were people who really gave me a lot to deal with. And it was time to let go of that. And what internally was I dealing with? I was going through a lot. I had a lot of medical issues, and I needed to deal with them. And I needed to I needed to have the strength to work with my counselor, work with my doctors, and try and get to a place where I felt healthy again. And I do think that the first step to combating any negativity is to ask yourself those questions. And after you do that, there are a few things that you can do to kind of get out of that negative spiral. So the first thing that I really like to do, or that has been really helpful for me, is to make a habit of just telling myself, oh, I'm feeling a little negative right now, Every time that you're feeling a little bit frustrated or negative or uncomfortable, be like, okay, wait, stop, What am I feeling right now? Ask yourself what it is that you're feeling, and then be like, am I feeling negative, or am I being negative right now? Maybe there was a difficult situation and I was being negative about it. And when you are negative about something, as much as it feels like it's going to make it better, it doesn't. It maybe makes it feel better for 5 seconds, but it doesn't make it go away. It doesn't help you process through it, and it can make the pain last longer. So in a moment where I'm not feeling very good, I would stop myself and be like, okay, what is it that I'm feeling, and am I being negative? And if the answer was yes, I would stop and I would think, okay, how can I look at this situation differently? It's called reframing. And I would it's just basically being in a situation and being like, how can I look at it differently? So, I am stuck in traffic. I'm going to be late to whatever I have to go to. How can I look at it differently? Well, I can't control that I'm stuck in traffic. I can't control that I'm going to be late at this point. So instead, I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to try my best to relax. As simple as that, it can completely change the course of your day. It's crazy. I love reframing. I'm sorry, you guys. It's something really important to me. But the point is to look at it and really challenge yourself to question yourself. And the more that you do it, the more that you make a habit of it, and the more that you start questioning yourself in your everyday life without even realizing. And the more that you combat that negativity with a positive thing, or with reframing it or thinking about it differently, the more that is reprogramming your brain to be like, no, we're not gonna be negative anymore, because I am coming in and I am stopping it. I'm putting a wedge in that pathway right there, and I'm shifting it. And being able to do that, like over time, you will realize that you are feeling less negative. Or when other people around you are being negative, your immediate reaction is going to be like, hey, wait, can we talk about this? Can we think about this a little differently? Like, let's think about it a little differently. And that is also another way to realize, if you feel like you are constrained because you're not allowed or able to do that without being judged, it might mean that you need to change your surroundings a little bit. And this whole episode is really challenging. It's really challenging the people you're surrounded by, the city you're in, the way that you're living, way that you're thinking, all of it. Like, this is a challenging episode. And I realize that, and I want to respect that. And at the same time, that is what worked for me. And I'm sure that there's other things that work for other people. But I guess here I'm speaking from my experience, is that I really, really, really had to challenge myself. Letting go of people, letting go of situations, letting go of places. It's difficult. It's not easy. It took a lot out of me. But in the long run, even though it's still painful and it hurts, and I think I will always still be hurt by the way that things ended, and by the way that, the reason why I had to let go of people. I will always still be sad that that's the way that it was. In the long run, it was so much better for me. It's okay to realize that things and people, they come and go. They're not meant to be permanent. And sometimes I worry that my negativity in the past was because I was expecting those things to be permanent. So really questioning yourself about this, I could give other little tips, but I do think that this is the biggest thing. And I think that the rest of it is different for everyone. So as you are in this journey to being and learning to deal with negativity and seeing, how can I respond to it, set your boundaries, respect yourself, question yourself, work with people, get help that you need, and take a deep breath, because you're doing it and you're doing it well, and it's going to get better.